Of you have already welcomed me back from holidays, asked how my holidays went. They were very refreshing. And one of the things that I did for the holidays was to go on a road trip with my friend Jeff. And we went up to Traverse City. And if you've ever been to Traverse City, you know that it is beautiful. It's a retirement community up there in the thumb of northern Michigan. And we went up there to visit Walter Brueggemann, Tina Foley. And those names won't sound familiar to you, perhaps, or maybe you've heard of Walter Brueggemann's name. He's 90 years old now, but still a powerhouse in publishing academically on the Hebrew Bible. Very well-known professor of the Old Testament. Now, before I get into my rant, because this is going to be a rant sermon, at least part of it. When you visit Professor Brueggemann, he takes you downstairs at his place into his library. And he allows you to pick as a gift from one of the many publisher copies or author copies of books that he has published. And he's published over 100 books, and in the last couple of years he has at least 5 or 6 of them. And while I was in his basement, I was just amazed to see he had at least 5 or 6 manuscripts going. I'm not 90 yet. I have trouble getting up on Sunday morning with a sermon. And so this is the book that I picked, Hope Restored. Biblical Imagination Against Empire. That's the small print that you probably can't see from where you are sitting. If only, we're getting to rant, if only the media would pay attention to biblical experts like Dr. Brueggemann. Instead, what the media feeds us, the so-called experts on the Bible who make the news, are those who believe that hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes are God's punishment for gay people, that these natural disasters are somehow documented and predicted in the scriptures for punishing some perceived list of rights and wrongs. If only the world, which seems to have passed by any acknowledgement of an intelligent understanding of Scripture, could travel with us to Traverse City and put our hands on one of those free books that unpacks in an academic and intelligent way the Scriptures. We, my friends, are not biblical literalists. We, my friends, are not biblical fundamentalists, not in the United Church of Canada. And so when we read a scripture passage like Genesis chapter 2, the one that you just heard, we're aware that we need to separate out what the biblical writers are attempting to do in expressing who it is this God is that they've encountered, to separate that out from the assumptions and worldviews. In this case, that gender is binary and only men and women should love each other, and that there's nothing diverse beyond that. We are not biblical literalists. We are not biblical fundamentalists. Did I say that yet? The scripture passage from Genesis chapter 2 is beautiful and powerful in that it shares with us that we are created in God's image, and that we can create. This at last is bone of my bones, says the man in the garden, and flesh of my flesh, he says about this woman created from his rib. This one shall be called woman, for out of man this one was taken. And the biblical writers and the generations that shaped these stories understood the world in that way. Basics of humanity, male and female, men and women. And it's difficult to have an informed conversation about the nuances of how Scripture is written in a world where a soundbite is all that you're permitted in a public conversation. And so the people who have the sometimes most destructive and hateful sound bites, they make it to the top of the news feed. I celebrate that the scripture passage today expresses Israel's beliefs in God. Here's a God who creates. Here is a God who sees creation and says, I need humanity. And I need humanity to be part of that creation. This is a scripture passage that tells us something about what it means to be human. How it is that we are to understand creation, given what we believe about God. So I'm going to borrow from Professor Brueggemann and his book and talk about a couple themes in the scripture passage today. And the first one's this. This is a story about chaos being transformed into order. Genesis 1, what we heard about in the children's time, has the earth completely in chaos. Nothing's come together yet. It's just a big soup, celestial soup. And then order comes from God. The light is separated from the darkness. And the land gets separated out from all of the water. And daytime gets distinguished from the night. And work comes to an end, and rest can happen. Sabbath can happen. So we see in each of those acts of God, we have a God who brings order out of chaos. And then we get to Genesis 2, the scripture passage that we read today. We're in a garden, and that garden continues this act of bringing order to creation. There's different trees. There's a tree of knowledge, and then there's this tree of good and evil. Pro tip, don't eat from the fruit of that tree. There's rules. There's rules about what is ethical to do. From the chaos of anything goes. This man in the garden starts naming all the animals. Like, how do we tell them apart? Well, they all have names. In the garden, what was chaos becomes a place where God's order can allow for things to thrive. But that's not enough. God's not satisfied with stopping at chaos turning into order. We have a God who wants that order to be transformed into hope for your lives, for there to be hope and purpose. The idea here is that you, my friends, I pointed to all of you. You're more than just a product of creation. You're more than just something that came off the end of the orderly assembly line of God making things. That's the gist of what we're getting out of today's story. You're more than products. We are part of creating. The story of God reaching into this first humanity and pulling out something from us in order to recreate. We're not just the product, we're co-creators. And that is at one and the same time wonderful and terrifying. I hope that terrifies you. You have a responsibility in this creation to be a co-creator with God, to pay attention to what's God up to, and what's my part in that. You have a purpose. And from that purpose, we have a hope. And it's more than what happens in the garden, in this ideal space. More than just tilling the ground and naming the animals. It's more than just having the ability to recreate or procreate. We're told in our creation, right from the start, the breath of God is within us. God breathed into us, and that animated us. What are the biblical writers wanting to reveal about God? God loves us enough to create us, but to reveal to us about ourselves, that we have God within us. And so when we create, we best be faithful to that breath of God within us. Don't hold your breath and keep God out of creation. God's not satisfied with just order. That order is transformed into hope. And so what's that order about? What do we hear in this passage about the nature, the contours of that hope? So that hope isn't just I heard a great idea today from the pulpit. Hope. It's not just an idea in the biblical story. It's concrete, involves people. It involves reality, not something virtual, something online as we're used to in our world today. Our hope is tied to this earth. This place where your feet are planted right now. This air that you're breathing in on this September morning. Your purpose and your hope is not an abstract idea. It's grounded in the world that God has created. It's not about optimism. It's not about I got a great idea. No, it's about some breath that God has in us. Our purpose that God has breathed into us is not to figure out how to escape this world, but how to transform it. Our lives are not about escaping whatever struggles we have, but how do we transform those struggles? Our lives are not about escaping judgment, but recognizing when we fall short of the glory of God, when we've sinned and harmed others, and not doing some end run around remedying that. But how does God transform our hearts? Now, some of you may be thinking, I don't escape. I don't try escaping reality. How do you know you're addicted to the internet? Here's a list, which is a great way of escaping reality. You refuse a vacation anywhere without the internet or a cell tower near you. I'm not going to make you put up your hands, but you just nod your head gently. You know you're addicted to the internet and escaping through it when you check your notifications, and there are no new messages, so you refresh to check it again. You know I'm hearing confession back here. You know you're addicted to the internet when your best friend setting aside those who are unable to get out and meet others, but you know what I mean. When your interactions with people who live in flesh and blood bodies is not to be in the same space with them and their flesh and blood bodies. And for those of you who are thinking, I don't have the internet, not my generation, you know escapism can come in many other forms. Retail therapy, the generation that learned that being a consumer is a way of escaping the struggles of this world. Or if you say, I never had enough money for that, you know what it means to be a couch potato. And television as a way to escape. Our creation story sets us right smack dab in the middle of the earth beneath our feet, the air that we breathe, the sky and the stars above us. There is no escaping that when it comes to God working in our lives. Professor Bergman puts it this way, and I love how he put it. We're called by God to terminate our complicity in chaos. Escaping this world, looking to get back into something that is chaotic, or the ways in which we undo the hope and the order that God has fashioned in our world, try to escape it by just getting back into chaos. Or the ways that we treat our neighbors to create chaos. Or the way that we treat our bodies just to create chaos. It can be addictive. When you think about it, it can be addictive to be complicit in chaos, to be complicit in unwinding the order that God has created, and therefore undermining hope that God has in our lives. Let me wrap up by saying this, and this is part of my grieving. Yes, I love being back, and I love seeing all of your wonderful faces, but it's so sad, isn't it? To always come back to the holidays. Having a birthday on August 31st is a two-edged sword, isn't it? It's a blessing and it's a curse. Because at one and the same time, you're celebrating freedom of summer. And then when you wake up the next morning, it's September 1st, and everything just starts up again. We move into September, whether it's the chaos of September, or it's the grind of its order, and that's searching for ordering everything. And so we're in September now. Just take a deep breath. That is me talking to myself. Brad, just take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. And the church is not immune from being addicted to trying to get things done, focusing only on ordering the world and losing sight of our hope and purpose. No doubt we're going to be so busy thinking about amalgamation and so many other things that we